Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I am Chamberlain Osol.
Good morning from Abuja. I'm Maokwe Ogun-Yusuf.
Well, it's an absolutely beautiful morning here in Lagos. You're welcome. I'm Kaido Hikulu.
Indeed, you took the words right out of my mouth. Good morning. It's a beautiful Thursday morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Well, yeah, so we're going to start with a look at some of the dailies here this morning. We've got a guest here with us. Christopher Esiguzo is the president of Nigeria Union of Journalists. He joins us here in the studio. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today and good to see you.
Good morning.
All right, so let's start off with Leadership newspaper here today, and the lead story, it's what, at least it's cherry. Good to actually see this Kaduna train attack. After 6 months in captivity, remaining 23 victims regained freedom. FG says it was a covert operation, no ransom was paid. PNB hails military. We're yet to see our loved ones, ascribed to the families. And then you see Abuja Kaduna train service to resume soon, NRC. So, wow, at least, oh yeah, and by the way, there's a picture right there of the remaining 23 victims of Abuja Kaduna train attack who were released yesterday, as the paper so captions. Who wouldn't be glad about this?
Well, that's, like you said, cheery news that finally we have all of them out, you know, and for this past couple of months, there are people, those closely related to them, would have been going through harrowing period, harrowing experience, you know, and it's good that at last they're going to reunite with their people. And most interesting is the fact that the government said that no ransom was paid. It simply means that our security network, our security architecture, so to speak, is up to task and has succeeded in getting those people out. Well, we can't wait to have train services resume because we know what people are already going through, you know, going through our roads and all that, especially if you are going towards Kaduna and all that. So we can't wait to have the train service, and want to also get some words of comfort and confidence, you know, from the security system that nothing of such is going to repeat itself because it's been quite a time, you know, that is not good in our national life. Invading the train, the rail station and cutting away this number of people. So we believe that such will not repeat itself, so that people can once again enjoy, you know, train services in the country.
Yeah, I think it's something a lot of people will be looking forward to. So I guess we'll wait on the NRC for that announcement, as it were. But this one is above this lead story, and you could almost miss it if you're in a hurry. APC governors blame campaign council for usurping duties of party leadership. So, I mean, well, they always say they will always have their internal issues and that at some point they will sort it out, but at least it's here on the front page.
Well, that is party issues, like you observed. They would always have their internal squabbles, you know, and all that. And the one thing about these politicians is that they also have a way around it. You know, before you know it, they'll come together and tell you that party is supreme. You know, at the beginning, it will seem like the entire place is going to cave in. But with time, they would also begin to look at the bigger picture, you know, and see that, you know, fighting amongst themselves may not lead them to that El Dorado, so to speak.
But what's your view about the coverage of the campaign so far from the part of the media and perhaps maybe social media as well?
You know that for the social media, I've always said that it has changed our entire system. It has changed our lives, you know. Before you know it, something is happening, social media is blowing it out of proportion, you know, and all that. In terms of coverage of the campaign so far, even though the campaigns have not really, gathered momentum. It's just picking up gradually. The media, I think, we are very much prepared, and we are doing the needful. For the social media, they are there too.
But how are we balancing our role in terms of setting the agenda or just chasing the news and steering the nation on the right path?
Well, I think I've always harped on that, the issue of the media taking up the entire leadership of setting agenda, because in recent times it does appear that the political actors seem to be dictating the pace, and it's not too good, because the politicians would always set agenda that panders to their whims, So I would always advise or urge our colleagues that it's not just about chasing the news. You've got to also give them direction, so that they would know that it's not just about what they think. It's the media that should really give direction as to what we look forward to and all that. So I think we've not failed in that completely, but I believe that there are rooms for improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, so Daily Trust is also focusing on that lead story. Not surprisingly, it's the big story for almost, it should be, or might be, the big story for most of the dailies today. How 23 remaining abducted Kaduna train passengers were released. So they are focusing on the how. So if you want a little more detail, maybe this is some advert for Daily Trust. You might want to pick up the paper. They also have the riders' families excited. How negotiators sealed deal. NRC to unveil plan on train service resumption. Recall that, they had said initially it was even the families of those whose loved ones were abducted who said, no, there is no way you can start a service when one group of passengers whom you took, you have failed to deliver to their rightful destination.
Yes.
And it was seen that much later the federal government saw reason and said, no, we will indeed not open or resume services until we bring back these people. So it does look like now plans are underway. But don't you think that there needs to be double reassurance to the public that indeed when you get on this service, it will not take you 6 months before you finally get to your family?
Yeah, I actually said that earlier on, that much as we look forward to resumption of train services, especially along that area, we also needed some form of reassurance, that this thing is not going to repeat itself, because I don't think anybody would like to go through that experience the second time. And for people that have not experienced it, they don't even want to experience it. So they've got to, it's good that the NRC has said that they're going to, of course, cross the T's and dot the I's properly, and now come up with details of how they are going to resume very soon. So we need that, as they plan to come up with those details, let them also reassure us, and let also the security agencies, because I think it's at their doorsteps, to also assure and reassure all of us.
When we talk about reassurance, what precisely are we looking to see? Because some people will say they would reassure you that nothing like that is going to happen again. But
reassuring us actually is to tell us the steps they are taking. Practical steps. It's not just about we're on top of the matter. They should also give us details of steps they've taken to ensure that the rail lines are protected. What we are looking at is to ensure that those places are protected.
Do you think that because some people will say, okay, the bad people too are also listening. And at the end of the day, if they're telling you how they're going to be protecting you, those people will be looking for how to make sure that those plans don't work.
Well, at least to a very large extent, if they tell us that these steps have been taken and we are doing this, then we don't expect them to give us all the 100% of their plans, because you also have the aspect of intelligence. They are not going to reel them out, because if they do, they would have succeeded in arming those who are trying to ward off, So, but to a large extent, there are things they will do that I say, okay, it seems something is actually in the works.
Happening. Okay. Great. I'm going to look at two more stories. Senate approves 3.6 trillion naira petrol subsidy, 8.4 trillion naira borrowing plan for 2023. So it does seem from this that subsidy might still be around for a while. The story is on page 19. But the one I'd really like to focus on is this. World Teachers' Day. 2 years after, federal government yet to implement teachers' new salary package.
Oh, dear.
Yesterday was World Teachers' Day, and in all fairness, in some instances, the teachers were celebrated, maybe from schools, etc. But as a public, do you think, maybe this is a little ironical, considering there's ASU strike, etc., have we really paid teachers the honor and the service, you know, which they deserve? I'm looking for the right words.
Anyway, you know, when we were much younger, there is this...
saying that teacher's reward is in heaven.
A cliche, so to speak, that their reward is in heaven. It does appear that they are looking, you know, towards that, you know. Talking about not doing the needful in terms of agreements reached with them, it does appear it has become commonplace with us. Today we are having a very, very serious issue with members of the ASU, you know, and I believe that government should equally, you know, take time to look at the agreements it has reached with not just the teachers, other, you know, groups that are very critical to our national development, so that we don't just haste to sign these agreements without also having the intention of keeping to the terms of the agreement. So government must rise to the occasion and ensure that we don't also, you know, allow teachers to take the route of these university lecturers.
All right, we've got more papers in Lagos.
Oh, that's right, Chamberlain. Let's take a look at this Nigeria. That's next on our lineup this morning. And this is what you see. 3 words: free at last. 6 months after Abuja Kaduna train attack, military secure release of remaining 23 hostages. And yeah, that's like the biggest story for today. And you understand why. It's taken us over 6 months to reach this destination. And as you've said, you can imagine the trauma, I mean, having to go through that on a daily basis for over 6 months. Goodness me. We'll definitely take a closer look at that subsequently. But this one interests me under the big picture. Anxiety as APC fails to announce date for campaign kickoff. Adamu says no cause for alarm. But it doesn't interest me as much as this next one, which I'd like you to, you know, speak to. ASU strike, appeal court urges out-of-court settlement. And the irony is they've been trying to settle this out of court for what? Since February the 14th. And then they head to the court and court says, well, looks like you have to go back and settle this where you're coming from. Do you see anything coming out of this, even though there's hearing set for today, but do you think out of court can really sort this?
Well, I think it's just for the parties to show an appreciable level of sincerity in these discussions. It's not like I said earlier on about sitting down and telling them what they need to hear. Let them show some sincerity. Yes, I was looking forward to, of course, the court doing this because these are somewhat labor-related issues and all that. So they needed to have the parties sit down. It's not just about one party winning and another party losing, because the parties need themselves. The ASU people, they need government needs ASU and all that. So there must be that collaboration, understanding, sincerity of purpose in their conversations, in their discussions, in their meetings. So I believe that if they really begin to remove the ego, you know, thing about these discussions, something might still come out of these discussions. It's just about the parties laying down their guards and come to the discussion table with some level of, an appreciable level of sincerity. And I think that can help us get out of these woods.
Just for mention, this story also makes its way to the front page of This Nigeria. INEC to deploy undercover agents to polling units to monitor elections. I mean, the sound of that alone sounds good enough, but you wonder just how well this will be implemented and, I mean, how far-reaching it will be. Yes, I mean, it's welcome, definitely, to reduce vote buying, voter inducement and all of that. So I guess I'll just wait and see how that plays out. Undercover agents for INEC.
Interesting, and that features also on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, but that's not the first place to touch on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct this morning. This big story chooses to trail the budget presentation expected from Friday, and that will be, of course, Mr. President's last budget presentation as head of state. And this is the way it's rendered. 19.76 trillion naira budget presentation. Presidency battles padding by MDAs. Announces 720 billion naira borrowing plan. Reps commence process of scrapping MDAs. It's a page 21 read. And so much to, pretty much unpack from that headline. Budget padding, another round of borrowing, and then the scrapping of MDAs, which would be, the commencement of the implementation of the Ransom report. But let's start with the commencement of, battling of budget padding. It appears as if that is not going to go away from, our budgeting process. So, Mr. Isiguzo, I'd like you to speak to this, really. Where do we go wrong in oversighting and in, the scrutinization of the budget by the presidency before presentation to the National Assembly? And of course, this is also a follow-up to the letter sent to the Senate by the ICPC chair discovering 300 billion naira budget padding by MDAs in 2021 budget and 100 billion naira in the 2022 budget, not to mention, other inclusion in the budget of, salaries for ghost workers.
Well, I think the issue of budget padding, we have always had it in our budgeting system over time. But I thought that by now we would have been able to perfect the fact that when we come up with our budgets, they must be properly scrutinized and the needful done. Well, the fact still remains that some of these things are done from the point of putting these things together by the ministries, departments, and agencies, of government. So it is important that all the people that are involved in the process of budgeting, because it's not just about the MDAs. If it is about them, it wouldn't go to the National Assembly. So the first stage is the MDAs putting it together. Of course, the presidency looking at it critically, and before they send to the National Assembly. So all these people are involved in these whole processes of that will eventually culminate in the final document that becomes the appropriation act, as the case may be. So it's not just about the MDAs. So even if the MDAs have done something that is not proper in terms of as far as budgeting is concerned, other people that are equally involved in the processes should take critical look, scrutinize the documents, and ensure that what comes out reflects the mindset of the president that is presenting it, as the case may be. So these are the things we must do. So the MDAs, the presidency, of course, the members of National Assembly, they should ensure that some of these documents that is presented to Nigerians, we don't continue to go through this back and forth. Look at, like you said, the discovery by ICPC and the rest. It also casts a snag on the people that are involved in this budgeting process. So we must be more committed to ensuring that what we bring to Nigerians reflect their yearnings and aspirations, and not just about somebody talking something somewhere that with the sole intention of benefiting from same.
Scrapping of MDAs by the House of
Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a look at New Telegraph. It's the next paper here. Arewa Consultative Forum. 2023 polls of great concern to us. Okay. It's getting conflicting here. Okay, look at the right here. Warns politicians against thuggery rigging to meet presidential candidates. Says insecurity, Nigeria's biggest tragedy, tasks FG on flooding. So, should everybody be concerned about the elections?
Of course. It's a very, a make or mar election, actually, And it is a unique transition process. It's not just about the president handing over to himself or going through an election that he will take part in. Now we're going to have a new set of leaders as far as the president and the vice president are concerned, so that makes it more crucial for all of us, So I want to believe that all the actors involved in this whole thing, of course, the media, the election management body, and the political actors, and all of them, they must bear in mind that any error, that we make in the process of this electioneering is going to appreciably undermine Nigeria's democracy and, of course, the country.
And then at the bottom strip, same faith candidacy. Catholic Church is non-partisan, but I won't vote APC. That is ascribed to Cardinal Onaikon. And then says, ruling party has to accept responsibility for its decision. Describes Governor Lalong's acceptance of campaign DG as political. And then you also see God, governors, our hope to win, says Adamu, as PGF, PCC, NWC meet. Well, we have to go check that out. But I'm going to go ahead and jump to above this lead story. This is about the economy. World Bank, Nigerians, others account for 60% in extreme poverty. And that is, it says that there's this report titled Poverty and Shared Prosperity Report, which was released yesterday.
Well, I think by the last check, we about the poverty capital, and we're not surprised when we go see these reports, come out. They are clearly pointing at the obvious, that there is an increased level of poverty in the land, and there must be steps. And that's why I said the coming election is very, very crucial. We're going to look at capacity. We're going to look at antecedents. We're going to look at capability of somebody. It's not just about primordial sentiments.
Because I was wondering,
we must begin to downplay them.
We see governments time and again. Governments always say that we're doing certain things, we're taking certain measures to ensure that the economic indices, come out a lot better. But most times you see the indices going south. So how do people relate with those narratives of government and the economic figures, as it were?
Well, most times there will be that genuine intentions, from the person on whose table the buck stops, But what about the people that line up the entire process? It's not just about an individual. There are other people, in the whole system. So do they also have the same genuine interests of the people at heart? So these are the things we are going to be looking at. That's why it's important that whoever comes, we must also look at the person's ability to assemble capable hands that would help such a person achieve his campaign promises, because if you just come there and you end up staying 1 year without, and at the end you bring a group of people that don't even believe in your manifesto and all that, of course your guess is as good as mine. Most of these policies, like you said, will go south.
Well, let's see how we can quickly run through The Guardian now. They have this regulation policy: frustrate 14,120 megawatts hydropower. $7.1 billion hydropower in Mirage as stakeholders kick against borrowing. Nation's electricity emission worries experts amid energy transition. Buhari's electricity infrastructure expansion to serve Abuja for 50 years, says federal government. And you also see this: 1,465 megawatts transmission line, 870 megawatts transformers to be commissioned in December, says TCN boss. I do not know how familiar you are with this story. They have a file picture of Kainji Dam, but this is what we're saying: regulation policy frustrate 14,120 megawatts hydropower.
Well, like you said, you don't know how versed I am in this area. But in all that terms and terminologies that are being used, what Nigerians are looking forward to is to have steady power supply.
Indeed.
So once...
And we don't really need to understand the terms.
We don't. Once
we just need to be switched on.
Once you have your light on, always, and they can speak their jargons and all that. But so that's what we're looking forward to, actually.
All right.
It's a fine place to leave this conversation for now. We certainly will be, digging in further to some of the headlines you have seen here, but this is where we have to leave the paper review segment. We have to thank you, President of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, Mr. Isiguzo. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning.
My pleasure.
We'll take a break at this point. We'll be back shortly. Please stay with us.
For the over 300 validated passengers on the ill-fated Abuja Kaduna train, Monday, March the 28th, 2022 may forever linger. Passengers' confusion grew when the train scheduled for arrival at 7:45 p.m. did not, but rather than touch down, their train had been attacked, and by the time the dust was settled, at least 8 of them had been killed, while others sustained gunshot wounds.
They speak different language, not Fulani, not Hausa, and they are not even matured enough. They are children like 18 to 20 years. They are small children.
All of a sudden we started hearing guns, and I was shot on my legs, and after that I don't know what's happening.
The agents of sorrow did not stop at that, whisking away some of the passengers. In less than 24 hours, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, had made an appearance. His promise is to use this incident as a lead to improve the security architecture generally in the country.
It also reinforces our own belief that we must continue to provide the kind of security and surveillance that is required on the rail tracks. And that, of course, is something that we're very actively doing.
When he visited, the Chief of Army Staff promised to not just secure the release of the victims, but also punish the assailants.
This is dastardly acts, but I'd like to assure you that those behind it will not go unpunished.
In the days and months that follow, families of the victims cry out for help and, in emotion-laden voices, beg for their release. The managing director of the Bank of Agriculture was the first to taste freedom after 9 days in captivity. About 2 months after, the second batch of 11 was released on June the 11th. 3 were freed on July the 5th. And by August 19, 40 of the victims have joined their families. Wednesday, October the 5th came with the cheering news of the freedom of the last batch of 23. With that, all in captivity are now free. But the other leg of the promise is one many Nigerians still wait to see fulfilled, which is the arrest and punishment of the attackers. Timothy Crown, Adiribigbe, Channels Television News.
It's been 6 months, 1 week. Come to an end, thanks to the support from the federal government through the office of the Chief of Defense Staff. We were able today to go into the bush and bring back the remaining 23 families, finally. Not through our making, but because of somebody that betrayed the community and the government. That's the person of Tukur Mamu, who did everything within his reach to thwart the efforts the government has put in place, all in his interest. As you all know, he's in the hands of the government now. But alhamdulillah, all the family members are back. The bandits never asked for money at initial, But he put money issue into the whole thing and derailed the process and kept everybody for the past 6 months. We just parted away with about $200,000 US. Thank God the CDS took this upon himself, put in place a committee that never asked for one kobo. Every sacrifice being done so far has been personal towards ensuring the release of the victims. I'm happy to tell you that I worked with credible members of the highest order. If I have my way, all of them will be given a national honor because we had to risk our life, went into the bush, slept in the bush, had the complaints of these people, even though we knew what they did was wrong. But we had to engage them. And going forward, like I said, our security agencies must synergize their operations, and the government should open more rooms for engagement.
Just wow. Well, to weigh in on this matter, we're joined by Brigadier General Sani Usman, former Director, Army Public Relations. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's really tough for, several people who have heard this narrative. But, you are in a vantage position, in a manner of speaking, because you're still very much close to a lot of your colleagues who are still there. But given how this has panned out most recently, what are your impressions concerning what we heard and, thankfully, the eventual release of the remaining kidnapped victims?
I think the first thing, is the issue of gratitude and happiness that those in captivity are now released. And at the same time, commendation also for all those that have had hand in making it possible. Remember, the last batch was released in June, and yesterday, the remaining batch were released. It was a painstaking effort, a lot of background thing, coordination and jointness. But the most impressive thing about it is that apart from the noticeable jointness and cooperation and synergy of efforts among the security agencies, we have now a renewed cooperation, not just among the military or the security forces, but also component of the Nigerian society. You have watched what he has said, and of course the release by Professor Usman yesterday. And believe me, you need to know the people behind the effort that was put in place by the Chief of Defense Staff. And you will appreciate the fact that Nigerians are wonderful people. They so love their country and they love humanity. Hence, the personal sacrifices, civilians who are not even affiliated with the government, or some people who have even left services like me, who are retirees, and they put in their best to ensure that these people are released. So it's something that is heartwarming and very commendable. And I will tell you that since 28th of March, when the unfortunate incident occurred, the following day, this machinery was set in motion. And, there were a lot of efforts, challenges, so to speak, and what have you. But at the end of it, just like a former Chief of Defense Staff used to say, that don't tell me how raw the sea was but have the goods arrive. So I think the most important thing is the end result. And we need to appreciate that, and we need to commend that. And the good thing is that every step is being taken to ensure, they avert such things, and the people are being taken care of, and they will soon be reunited with their families.
Indeed, 6 months is a long time to be away from one's family under such harrowing conditions. I don't think that even people who do not, who have enemies, who wish that upon their enemy, that they go on a journey that was only supposed to take 2 hours at the most, and then it's taking them 6 months to get home to their families. And indeed, a lot of Nigerians can appreciate the joy that many families will feel, and they're thankful indeed that these people are back home safely. However, I'm just wondering how we're going to, how we're going to look at the circumstances right now in terms of those in terms of those, pardon my line of thoughts right now, in terms of those who are, who asked for this ransom, who took these people, what were they hoping to achieve when they seized members of this, when they seized these people on the train? Do we have an idea now what they wanted?
Actually, on the basis of the findings and the intelligence gathered based on this 6 months effort, a lot of information has come to fore. And it is not something that should be discussed, actually, because I know other components of the security agencies are working on the intelligence gathered. Basically, the motivation and possibly the next line of action. But I can rest assure you that a lot is being done, and those people that perpetrate this act will definitely not go unpunished, despite the fact that there were a series of, assurances and what have you. Because it may interest you to know that this release was a combination of so many efforts by the various components, the military and the other components of the Nigerian society. So at a certain point, the military had to exercise restraint and what have you. So it does not in any way hamper, the normal operational activities of the military that is ongoing.
So restraint in what regard?
Well, you should understand that while you are negotiating, at the same time the military wants to, do the kinetic aspect of it, but of course you have to combine the non-kinetics. And whenever you are faced with a challenge of this nature, the best thing to do is to involve the various components of all the elements of national power. Basically, the natural and the social aspect of it. To what extent are you taking advantage of your population, and that is one of the staying powers. And we have seen it by involving some people in this country otherwise that have not been involved in the beginning. So, and to what extent are you taking advantage of the, the other aspect, the information, the military, the geography and technology? So these are the issues that, that were brought to bear. And each one of them, they have their own requirements, their own, operational procedures and what have you. But somehow you have to, collapse all for the betterment of the overall objective. So that is what I'm talking about.
Okay. What can you tell us about, because remember when the DSS arrested Mamu, they eventually then said, look, people should allow us to do our jobs. Now, there are different narratives about the role he played in all of this, and many, listening to, just before we came on air, the narrative that went on, how he appeared to have played some sort of negative role in all of this, how they never demanded money, but he came in and all sorts of things happened. So help us connect the dots here. How did all of this play out from your perspective?
Well, unfortunately, I don't want to comment on it simply because I think the case is in court and it will amount to sub judice if I talk about it. But the long and short of it is that, you can see the difference when, a credible establishment joined the effort, in this rescue or rather release effort. The Chief of Defense Staff is a non-person. Almost most of his career life has been spent in the Northeast. He was the theater commander. Eventually, he moved to multinational joint task force, and in the wisdom of the president, made him the Chief of Defense Staff, that coordinator. And they emphasize on, joint operations and jointness, not necessarily among the military, but the security agencies and the component of Nigerian society. And that is one thing people should understand, that every other person in this country has a role to play. But of course, we should believe in the lead agencies, in any circumstances we find ourselves. The Department of State Security, state services are doing a marvelous job. You will be interested to know that they have been, supplying the necessary information to. But now, the missing dots now was the issue of coordination and cooperation.
Yeah,
synergy.
And that's the part I was, even before that part, I was wondering. So, Pam, you'll talk about that soon, but what is it that could have happened? Because I know, I guess, while you were in the service, you usually will just sit back, review circumstances with a view to ensuring how could we do better where we didn't. So in this kind of case, why do you think help didn't come earlier than now?
What I want you to understand is the fact that I don't speak for them, but that notwithstanding, there were issues, that require coordination. Take, for instance, the level of, the level of one agency and another is not exactly the same. Therefore, you have to carry everybody, on board. And in so doing, it requires painstaking effort, coordinating so many things. And sometimes, on the surface, you think that there is nothing that is going on, but meanwhile, beneath it, a lot is being going on. And basically, that is it. And I will rest assure you, by the time, as time goes, those people that are deeply involved in this release effort, by the time they start talking, you will understand and appreciate the fact that a lot is being done. So it is not a question of taking time. And like I told you earlier on, the most important thing is that these people have now been released. But most importantly, again, what are those mechanisms and machineries being put in place to ensure these infrastructures are secured so that people could use them? I'm talking about the train services. And how do we avert or do we prevent such reoccurrence? It is not just the kinetic aspect of it. In dealing with insurgency, in dealing with terrorism, and of course, issue of banditry and kidnapping, there are other non-kinetic aspects that need to be done. And most importantly is the issue of good governance. What are those things that need to be done? And this, I believe the government is focusing on it, using the necessary agencies.
So is it that your point is the authorities need to let Nigerians know what measures they put in place to ensure or to let them know that that service is secure and can be used?
Yes, of course, every Nigerian would like to be reassured. In fact, they are waiting eagerly for the train services to be resumed. And of course, being, sensitive to the flight of those that were in captivity, it was not restored. But now we have passed that stage. Now the question is, how do we prevent such reoccurrence? And I know that a lot is being done to prevent that, and I believe the Nigerian Railway Corporation is giving assurance. But of course, they couldn't have been talking if they have not been talking to the various security agencies for such assurance. And beyond that, again, what level of support and cooperation are they getting from the government itself? Not necessarily the federal government, including, the state government and the local government services. So now a lesson has been learned. A lesson has been learned, but what are those things that you are putting in place? And those things include, taking everybody on board. Take, for instance, information hazard, the time they took, and the distance they took before they carried out the operation. People know better. And the people that have not been engaged are now being constructively engaged to ensure that the report And of course, they take part in securing whatever facilities we have in this country. So it's a kind of holistic thing, and I know that the government is doing the best it could to ensure that. And more so now they have shown the capacity to do these things as manifested by this committee led by the Chief of Defense Staff. I think we should give them the benefit of doubt.
All right. My colleagues, I've got questions for you.
Well, that's right, Chamberlain. Good morning, Brigadier General. Certainly a happy ending to this harrowing experience. Absolutely. 192 days spent in captivity, but we've had to pay prices to get to this point. 8 people were killed in that attack. We've had prison break that was related to that directly. We've had, we've seen the victims being flogged. We've seen them make demands, ask for their family members to be released. We've seen even ransom. I mean, listening to an insider saying that they had to part with $200,000 really, and looking at just the quantum of that amount. So we've had to pay a lot of, price to get here. And that's some of them you can put a figure so you can identify. But what about the emotional trauma and all of that? I don't know if we've really dealt with or maybe tried to answer the question about why it had to take this long. I mean, I don't remember a hostage situation taking this long, 192 days, over 6 months. So maybe just to help people get closure, because, I mean, the prayer, the hope is that this will not happen again. I imagine promises can be made. Promises have been made in the past that this will not happen again. But really, did it have to take this long?
Well, you are putting so many things at the same time. The issue of taking long, I just addressed it a while ago, and it's multiplicity of key players, being involved. Take, for instance, I talked about even among the security agencies, there are 2 components, the military and other security agencies. But beyond that, again, we have the combination of other components of the Nigerian society, individuals, that are not even, working directly for the government. Bringing them on board, it requires a lot of synergization and all the rest. And when you are dealing with terrorists, there is no absolute certainty about that. There were so many negotiations. There were instances, they had to call it up. And, these people that are doing this effort, they need to be secured. And they had to be given assurance. So a lot of things. It is not as safe. And I made mention of the fact that this unfortunate incident happened on the 28th of March. But I can tell you by 29th, they swung into action. And at the end of it, this is what we have. And I quite agree with you, irrespective of the trauma, nobody could have wished this kind of thing for his or her own enemy. Honestly, every Nigerian, well-meaning ones for that matter, were all traumatized. Nobody was sleeping because of the, harrowing experience of these people that have been in captivity for over 6 months. Now they are back. And we are talking about, even among the military that were trained for, to withstand, to fight wars, and there are issues of post-traumatic experience and what have you. So, and I know that is why up to now they have not been fully reunited with their family members. They had been in various medical facilities so that they would check their health status. But beyond that, there will be counseling, and I expect more of support in terms of to deal with this trauma. Not necessarily even the victim directly themselves, but even the families. How do you, relate with somebody that had been away for 6, months? And beyond that, remember there were even underage children. One of them was just barely 5 years old. So a lot of things we need to bring all the experts to ensure that all the necessary support is given. Then the third and the most important aspect is the fact that we need to ensure the circumstances that brought about this kind of brazen attack and Western wanton destructions of lives and abduction of such a number of people should not be allowed to occur. And how do you do that? I had made reference of the synergy, the coordination and holistic approach. but most importantly, bringing people that hitherto were not being taken into consideration in, stemming these criminal activities or security challenges. Even the communities, the rail line has passed through, and of course the use of technology, and most importantly, good governance and ensuring that our local government system is working.
Well, I mean, I think it's a very important point, really. I mean, saying that we need to bring in more people, the communities especially, and that leads me to my next question. Saying that these people were in captivity for 192 days, I mean, day in, day out, they maybe have had to eat, had to be attended to, hearing that someone even gave birth in captivity and all of that. And I wonder, what are we dealing with here? We always say terrorists, Boko Haram, but do we really have a handle on what we're dealing with for these people to be able to carry out such operation for 192 days? I mean, they had to get some sort of sustenance, food, supplies, and all of that for 192 days. And it looks like they were flourishing. So do we really have a handle on what we're dealing with right now? Perhaps that was the inclination you were trying to give by saying that we should get the communities involved. How were they able to thrive for that long? And I mean, it looked like they could have even gone longer than that. So do we really know what we're dealing with here? Are they just simple terrorists, or there's more to this?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm losing the last part of it, but I will tell you one thing, that with the benefit of hindsight, and I mentioned earlier on that, the people that were involved in this release effort, they have learned so much, and they gathered so much information, and I can tell you we are putting our hands on it in the sense that with what is coming out, I think better steps will be taken. And I can rest assure you, there will be formal, report and formal debriefing, which in fact it has started already, and the Chief of Defense Staff and the government have started taking some measures. So basically that is it. But beyond that, again, this has brought to the fore the need for a holistic approach, and all those people that are sitting on the fence that are taught that security is the government responsibility, they should have a rethink that everybody has a role to play in dealing with security challenges. Otherwise, it will engulf all of us. Now, take for instance the issue of the involvement of all those people that have hand in the release of the remaining, kidnapped victims. Some of them, they were individuals, but they realized the need to serve their country, to serve humanity. When they are called upon, they did not even give any condition, and they know for sure they are going to deal with a deadly group, that there is every likelihood they may even lose their lives, just like the military does. So, but they made the sacrifice. So it requires, the understanding and the support of all the components of Nigerian society to understand the fact that everybody has a role to play, to see to what extent can you contribute. And I made reference to the issues of the elements of national power, psychologically, information. But people will assume by the time you are denigrating the security or the military, you thought that you are doing the best thing. No. They need all the support, they need all the encouragement they can get. And in fact, given the fact that we are religiously, inclined nation, they need all the praise they can get. So let us be positive. And with that, we can be able to understand and appreciate and discover, the latent talents or not necessarily talent, but the blessing each and every one of us has, because we are uniquely blessed somehow, to contribute our best to national development, peace and security in this country. But we should endeavor to use it more positively. And of course, for those who are statutorily responsible for leadership and securing us, they should discover, they should understand, we should not in any way be sacrificing the ability to serve with willingness to serve. We should always get the right people to do the right thing.
We're due for a break now, but when we return, a couple of more issues to raise. How do we ensure that the rail tracks, generally the infrastructure, is secure moving forward such that we can begin operations and ensure it doesn't happen again? How do we ensure that such violent groups do not spring up, or wherever they are nipped in the bud, as they say? We'll continue that in a moment. Please stay with us. Certainly cheery news when that news broke yesterday that the remaining 23 hostages had been released, but a lot to learn from. And we're continuing our conversation with former Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Sani Usman, who joins us live from our Abuja studio. Well, my colleague, Bukola, would like to jump in now. Bukola.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Kadi. Good morning, Brigadier General. And I imagine the flood of relief in the hearts of the family members of those who have just been released. And as Kadi said, it has been a Pyrrhic victory, you know, considering the journey leading up to this landing point. I calculated the amount quoted by that insider, $200,000 that they had to part with, and that's about 86 million naira. And not to mention, you know, the other sums that had been parted with when the former negotiator was in the picture. And, you know, that brings me to the question of, or the debate over ransom payment. I wonder if this amount that are in the hands of the kidnappers leaves you with a sense of helplessness about how, you know, this whole business is fortifying kidnappers. And the argument on the flip side also that if ransom payment is criminalized, it will leave family members without that option that would be critical to saving the lives of their family members who have been kidnapped. Where are you in all of this?
Well, I think one of the things that make kidnapping to thrive in this country is the fact that a ransom is always been paid. And of course, you cannot help but to do that simply because if your loved one is being abducted by bandits or kidnappers or terrorists, the option because of the present circumstances we found ourselves, you said, but you know, it's counterproductive in the sense that you are arming the criminals, you know, because whatever they are going to do, the starting point is to further, you know, arm them because they usually purchase weapons with some of this money. Hardly they invest it. Or even though we are conscious of the fact that there is war economy in which a lot of people are benefiting from these security challenges that we're having. You know, the arms supplies, the drug supplies, the information, you know, the informants and what have you. But beyond that, again, there are some group of unscrupulous elements that even help in investing these monies for them. Because I cannot imagine, you know, a bandit or a terrorist to be moving about with heavy amount of money, you know, that runs into millions of naira on him in the bush, because most of them are in the bush. So these are really issues that require in-depth pursuit so that, you know, they said when you follow the money, you definitely get to answer, get the answer to some of these questions. So this is it. But the ultimate thing, actually, the ransom payment encourage or rather fuel this criminality. But we have no choice. But I don't know now to what extent these issues have been, you know, addressed. But then, in these circumstances, I have no idea whatsoever that, you know, money has changed hand or any other, you know, thing has been changed. I believe over time, the government will make a statement about it, and those people that are involved, deeply involved, will definitely recount their own personal experiences and their own perspective about it. You know, as time goes on, there is nothing that is sitting under the sun. But the most important thing is that, like I said earlier, we really need to appreciate the effort of the Chief of Defense Staff and the entire, you know, committee that brought about this, you know, these abductees back, you know, to humanity after over 6 months. And then again, how do we build on that? You know, given the lesson learned, given what we have found out, given what we have seen in respect of this, you know, criminal elements, to what extent do we stop this, you know, security challenges, railway attack, not even just the railway attack, but attacking communities and other facilities, you know, so that Nigeria will be in peace just like it used to be before.
And following the money would also be critical when you consider the terrorism financing law, and you wonder what is being done in that regard, if that law is being invoked you know, to tackle the payment of ransom to kidnappers and all of that. That's another conversation on its own, but perhaps we'll leave that for another time. I noted that you also talked about using non-kinetic means, you know, to fight banditry and insurgency. And I wonder if you are getting a sense that that is being done as much as possible so that we don't continue to treat the symptoms rather than the root cause. I know you talked about how the federal government may be doing that, but, you know, there's also been an aspect of the conversation from state governments, you know, asking Nigerians to weigh the performance of subnational governments rather than the federal government. I know you are from the north, so do you get a sense that you know, that non-kinetic means is being deployed by state governments in the north, such that participation in criminal activity like terrorism and kidnapping can be discouraged as much as possible?
Well, if you are talking about that, is being employed, but to what extent it is successful or they are doing the right thing is entirely a different thing altogether. But most importantly, nobody should work in isolation. You know, the three tiers of government should work in concert with each other in dealing with the security challenges, both the kinetic and the non-kinetic effort. I made reference to the issue of good governance. Now, bulk of the problems we have are now being pushed to just two tiers of government, the federal and state governments. And what happened to the local government system? Because bulk of all these problems, they emanated from, you know, rural communities, and they, you know, they were allowed to escalate to the extent that they have become not just just a national issue, but in fact it is a regional issue because they have their tentacles across the Nigerian borders. It will interest you to know that you know, there are so many people involved, not necessarily in this country, in respect of all the security challenges that we're having. So we have to put our acts together to ensure that, you know, every component of the Nigerian society is brought on board to make sure that we trace even the financiers and all those people that are backing, either within the country or outside the country, and, you know, bring them to book. But in so doing, again, we will look at some of the remote and immediate causes of some of this problem. You know, what is the level of the economic, you know, empowerment of an average citizen of this country so that he or she has a sense of belonging to contribute, you know, in a way so that he or she's, his or her own value system are not compromised. Take, for instance, if somebody is hungry, there is every likelihood, the best thing, I think the best thing that readily comes to mind is the issue of, you know, food. But anybody with food definitely may not necessarily give him that food free of charge. He may have an alternate, you know, ulterior motive. So we should try as much as possible to ensure that Nigerians are given sense of belonging. They should have, you know, those basic necessities of life so that all these criminal elements will not entice them.
Okay. General, I'd like you to help me reconcile this. You've talked about how we got these hostages, you know, we secured their release through negotiations. You've also mentioned how you think that the Nigerian government is also going to punish the people who carried out this act. People know that when you negotiate, you give something to get something back. What did we promise them? And I know this might be delicate, but how do you reconcile when you say, you know, we negotiated their release, but we're also they're not going to go unpunished? they seem at variance.
Yeah, of course, it's easier said than done. But the long and short of it is that the bargaining chip, one of them is out. The hostages are no longer with them. So what are you doing with the information about the perpetrators of this crime? And I'm not privy to some of, the, in-depth effort and was negotiated. But the most important thing is that these people are out, and possibly it could be the issue of, okay, the government will not carpet bomb them so long as they release, because up to now, and continuously so, the Nigerian security forces have the upper hands against these criminals. That is one thing you should understand. And they are doing the best, they could to ensure that even without this issue, I am so sure at the end of the day, they will still be successful. But the most important thing now that these people have been released, so you cannot allow somebody who has killed someone who has held somebody in captivity. The issue of justice has to come into play, because part of the problems that we are having about these security challenges is the issue of, the criminal justice system in this country. People do things and without their consequences. And, so they continue to do it. Let there be, justice so that it will serve as deterrence and people will be given sense of belonging. Not necessarily justice to even the victims, but even to the perpetrators of the crime, so that they will realize that it doesn't pay.
All right, we'll have to let it go at that point. And just as you also indicated, hopefully the authorities will do what they can, because if we're dealing with something beyond the borders of this country, it requires engagements at that level with other nationals, other governments as well. But well, thank you for coming on. As always, Brigadier General Sani Usman, former Director, Army Public Relations. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. As you've seen, we're switching gears now, turning our attention to politics. It's just, 140-something days to next year's general elections. It's been a long time coming, but now political parties seem to be having different challenges, from the leading political party, the APC, to the opposition, PDP and others. We've seen, pockets of issues, and it looks like these issues are seeming intractable, especially when you see the caliber of people involved, the demands being made, and, the meetings ending or deadlocking, as it were. So this morning, we're focusing on that yet again. After all, they have presented themselves to lead Nigeria. And so we'll first take a look at how they're practicing democracy internally, and maybe extrapolate and see how well they will do if they're elected eventually into power. And this morning we're joined on the program by a member of the People's Democratic Party, Prince Tiran Odeyemi. Is former Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the PDP. Joins us virtually from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, this morning. Prince Odeyemi, it's good to have you on the program. I can't help but refer to that rally that we saw of the APC in Oyo State recently. And perhaps that may have gotten the PDP jittery, thinking, wait a minute, what is going on here? Where the major party in Oyo State, that got a lot of people talking, wondering, what is the PDP up to? There's a lot going on right now. So maybe as some form of response, what is going on within your party in Oyo State to begin with, before we then extrapolate and talk about the issues we have seen, of which the governor of Oyo State also is a major player in that?
As far as politics in Oyo State is concerned, I know everything about it because I've served the former governor, late Alao Akala, as a special advisor on communication and strategy. If you see anybody, or if you are trying to look at the rally as the yardstick to measure the presence of APC in Oyo State, I can as well tell you that it is a wrong miscalculation. Because in Oyo State today, Seyi Makinde, the PDP candidate, is extremely too popular and accepted by the people of Oyo State as the governor. Apart from the fact that he is performing well, He has conducted himself in public eye to such an extent that the demand for his return are even from the people of Oyo State. When I say the people of Oyo State, I'm not talking of Ibadan alone. I'm talking of Oyo, Ogbomoso, and virtually everywhere. If tomorrow you jump, you stand up on your car, people will want to look at you, people will follow you. It is very wrong to say because a large crowd follow them, and I don't even see the crowd we are talking about.
Right.
Because they are members of APC, nothing more than that, walking on the street. It doesn't give any calculation about what is going to be the outcome of election if it were to be conducted tomorrow in Oyo State.
So that was just to
PDP. They are popular in the state.
Just to get a sense of, how you are handling all of that, but that means, as you'll expect, you're very hopeful, and of course, that's expected at this time. But let's talk about what's going on within your party right now. Interestingly, Governor Makinde is playing a major role in all of that. We've seen his position time and again on the happenings in your party, saying, well, I am with the presidential candidate of the party. We're supporting him to a large extent. But when it comes to the issue of chairmanship, Senator Ayu must go. He reiterated that during the meeting which, he had with the candidate of your party. But we've seen that, other southwestern states are saying, well, we're not exactly together. And it looked like this was a southern thing, or at least a southwestern thing. We've seen the South as well give their position from Governor Wike. So the question is, does he still maintain that stance, saying that the BOT chairman has been moving round to try to, close the ranks and ensure that these issues are resolved? Is Governor Makinde still maintaining that stance as of today?
I want to tell you categorically that Governor Makinde has not changed or has not shifted from his belief that there should be reorganization in the hierarchy of the national officers of the party. And this is based on the fact that his argument is that we cannot have the president from the north and have the chairman of the party from the same zone. So he remains on his stand, and that has been the cause and the position of that group till the present moment. Nothing has shifted, nothing has changed. Of course, in politics, 24 hours is a long time. If tomorrow the chairman tenders his letter of resignation, then there will be a lot of rearrangement and everything will come back to normalcy. But as it is now, the situation remains the same, and which is not too good for our party. Well, I can tell you that emphatically.
Clearly, especially from people watching from outside, people who want to make their decisions, they look across and they see, okay, this party seems to be having issues, this one having issues, but this one, okay, it's good. Let's go with this one. But the question now is, isn't this now becoming a bit personal? We've seen other southwestern states, as I said, saying, well, we're with you on this. So it looks like now individuals are now the ones saying, well, this is what we want, and not the party, saying that first, the leadership of the party at the national level has given a vote of confidence on the chairmanship of Senator Ayu. And if he were to be removed, they will play a vital role in that. In fact, they have the responsibility, they have the powers, according to the constitution of your party, to be able to remove the national chairman. So they say clearly they're not going to do that. So isn't this becoming a personal thing? Don't forget, you always say, we're party men, okay? The party is supreme. But it looks like individuals are now supreme. Am I right?
You have more or less answered the question. There is always politics within politics. The politics we are supposed to be playing externally with the opposition, like the APC, the NNPP, the Labour, is what we are playing with ourselves internally. When you are talking of the party, it is the membership that constitutes the party. And don't rule out the fact that we all have our own personal interests, which was the purpose of even being a member of that political party. We have personal interest to become something, to use the political party as a ladder towards getting to position, to executive position. So you cannot rule out personal desire for leadership in what is playing out in PDP. I just want you to understand that. So if you are saying, one is personal, one is political party, Political party does not exist in vacuum. It consists of human beings. It consists of people from all the local government, all the polling booths, and virtually everywhere. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that, of course, you can't rule out personal desires, personal issues from the politics that is playing out in PDP in general.
Well, Mr. Adeyemi, without ruling out personal desire, it is becoming the somewhat preponderance of views from members of your party that the train, the presidential train of your candidate is moving without recourse to this personal desire of certain members of your party. And this is borrowing from the disposition of Dr. Pierce, who was here just 2 days ago, and from my interaction with other members of your political party. And the view is that governors who are queuing behind the River State governor run a risk, of the bandwagon effect that may occur after the presidential election, which will precede other elections. Is your governor worried about this? Or your party or your state worried about this?
Fortunately, we believe, united we are, we can win election. Divided we are, we can fall. And in politics, it is not a deal to start counting deficits, to start counting the number of people or the number of governors that will not follow you when it comes to campaign or when it comes to your calculation of winning an election. It's a bad politics, and it's a pure way of losing an election. If you believe the attitude or the contentions of about 6 governors are not in tandem with what you want to do. So in a way, I believe with the visit of the BOT to Governor Wike and the group, I believe it's an effort to say that, yes, we don't want to move, leaving these people behind. And that is how politics works. We have our crisis today. Don't be surprised if tomorrow Ayu resigns and the whole thing is resolved. But I know quite well, and I know what you are trying to say, that if we leave anybody behind, it's a big minus for our party, and you don't start winning an election by leaving some people behind, especially key governors, key members of the party, and people whose effort and capacity are known towards winning an election.
Let me follow up on that. I'll be more specific with my question. Your governor is the leader of the party in the Southwest, but some also say that he's the lone voice in the wilderness because Oyo State is the only PDP state in the Southwest. And then again, the gains that he'll be bringing to the election for your presidential candidate will be very few. Can you deliver, can you boast that the PDP in the Southwest can deliver other states to your presidential candidate?
You see, I agree with you. Governor Seyi Makinde is the leader of the party constitutionally. But that does not rule out the fact that in each state, we have our own idea and individual differences. And we know who to follow when it comes to the presidential. Like in the state that I come from Oyo State. I only reside in Oyo State, and luckily I served in Oyo State, which makes me to know the politics in Oyo State and in Oyo State. But I tell you, the position of Oyo State is quite different from the position of Oyo State. But that is not to say that when you are talking of the general election, if Governor Seyi Makinde decides to take the vote of Oyo State out of these votes in the Southwest, it's still a minus. This is exactly what I'm saying. So in other states, yes, they may have their disagreement, not agreeing with Governor Makinde's position that Ayu should resign. That is their own. But that is not to say that in all the states in the Southwest, people still don't believe in what Governor Seyi Makinde is fighting for. And this is that let us reorganize this political party to give the impression to the populace or to the electorate that we can reorganize Nigeria.
So do you have any other options if this train leaves you behind? What will be the options that the PDP in the Southwest will explore? And by extension, that is also asking, what are the options of these governors who are queuing behind the River State governor?
I cannot talk of any option because plus or minus, it is still the PDP and the presidential candidate that will be at loss. And just like the analysis that I gave, it is a wrong political tactics if you are going into an election and all what you start doing is counting the number of people that will not follow you or that will not vote for you. If the number of voters in Oyo State happens to be 3 million, let me put it that way, with the popularity of Governor Seyi Makinde, it's likely to take away half of it, which is 1.5 million votes, away from the presidential election. If an election at the end of the day is a game of number, I think it will not all go well, and it's a bad calculation if we don't have everybody on board to say, yes, we want to win this election together. So by and large, it is very difficult. It is not over until it is over. And nowadays, with Beavers, with the election that we have had in Ekiti, with the free and fair election we had in Osun, I can say categorically that it's very difficult for anybody to rig election. And it is very difficult to predict what is going to be the outcome of an election.
Right. I mean, that's still 140-something days ahead. But let's talk about what's happening now. So from the question I asked last time as we wind down now, are you saying that personal interest is bigger than party interest in this case?
Personal interest is part of what forms the party interest. We are in this party as individuals, not as a group.
Interest looks like Ayu should stay. The national leadership says, well, we trust this guy. We're confident in his leadership. Looks like the party decision. So isn't it just fair to bow to party decision in the interest of, as they say, peace and stability?
What Wike's group and Makide's group are saying is still the same thing. They are still members and pillars of the party.
Right.
So it is wrong to say that one is a party, the other one are not, part of the party. It is the misunderstanding between parties within the party. It's an internal crisis because you cannot wish away and call Wike's side, personal interest. That will be very wrong because if we were to be together, what you will be saying is that, yes, it is the party. But you cannot say because Ayu is the chairman of the party, the people who voted for, passed a vote of confidence on him are the party. Wike's group, Fayose, Imoke, and all of them, they are still part of the party. So the party is divided. Look it that way. Not that you take the other side as personal interest and you take the other side as party, or the party is unspoken. No,
well, interesting perspective there, Prince Odeyemi. I mean, saying your candidate was in Bauchi State and a crowd, perhaps, as you said, just members of the party trooping out to support him. But the coming days will definitely tell. I'd like to thank you so much. Prince Odeyemi is a deputy, or rather, he's a former deputy national publicity secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate you.
Right. Well, let's flip this over to our Abuja studio now. The conversation continues, but this time within the APC. Guys.
Finally, Dr. Nicholas Felix, he's here, and good to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well. Even though there's still questions as to what's been going on with all former presidential aspirants within your party, we haven't heard much of them lately. Are they, gone back to business as usual, or what?
All is well. I guess you'll be hearing from them very soon. There's so much in play, and so much are going on, so there's no cause for alarm in our party at all.
But at the moment, I mean, it does appear as though, clearly your party issues here and there concerning what kind of steps should be taken. Is the PCC properly composed? How do you proceed from here? What days is scheduled for what event to kick off? That doesn't sound like Save the Party has it all together from the get-go, does it?
Oh, that's absolutely. There's no issue. You know, we're talking about a nation of over 200 million people. And now this is the ruling party. Of course, there are so much we need to put in place. And if you understand our flag bearer, with what I've come to know, he's a man that listens, and he's a man that wants to carry everybody along. So there's no cause for alarm. If there was issue, I'm sure by now you'll hear of it. But there's no trouble in our party at all.
So at the moment now, you know, you have lots of people who are just looking to see what is it that the party is going to tell Nigerians this time when they get down there and then ask for their vote again?
You see, you should expect something new because a new administration is coming. Even though we talk about the party, understand that over 40 million Nigerians are part of this party. But what is different is a new administration. You're seeing new faces. For example, I'm a new face in the party, and you're seeing a lot of new faces, new ideas. So they should expect something new.
Yeah, but do those new faces have any leverage whatsoever? Because you don't expect the people who have been there to drop it on the laps of the new faces.
Our flag bearer hasn't been there. The last time he had an office, you know, as governor, it's been a while.
But he's always, we know the role he played in the emergence of this particular government, the role he's played and been playing and still playing in Lagos for those who are there. So he's been around in governance.
Yeah, he played a role in, you know, in the emergence, but he wasn't a cabinet minister, he wasn't a governor or anything. So you must understand, if you're not holding any governmental position, sometimes it may be difficult for you to have an input. You can advise, you can suggest, but it doesn't mean your suggestion will be taken. But I can guarantee you, Nigerians should expect something new from this administration. With what I see playing, definitely things are going to be changing.
What do you see playing?
I mean, our flag bearer is carrying everybody along. He listens. And to me, that is very key for me as a youth.
Have you had any meeting with him?
Oh, yeah.
After your...
I had 4 meetings.
The contest?
I had 4 meetings with him. The first, we spoke for over 45 minutes. I listened. It took me a while, so there were things I was looking out for, and I got even beyond. That's why I'm sitting here and speaking. So, and that's why I'm expecting something new from him.
I'm kind of shocked,
yes,
to be very honest, that Mr. Felix is sitting here representing the APC, because I know just how unhappy you were after the presidential primaries, and the fact that the presidential candidate who emerged had gone round many of the other contenders and did not reach out to you at that point in time.
Yes.
So what precisely changed for you?
Yes, last month we met, and he did apologize for that it was an oversight.
That was since the convention?
The convention.
The very first meeting you had with him was last month?
It was last month because I was out of the country. I left 7 days after the primaries. Of course, we needed to go and take a break and calm our head down. And I came back last month and we met. And that was the first issue that was addressed. You know, it was an oversight, it wasn't deliberate, and he did apologize. And
did you believe that?
If I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. When somebody tells you, I'm sorry that this happened, doesn't matter how you feel, you're supposed to let go. And he doesn't have to, at this age and at this level. If he apologized and said this was an oversight, that speaks of his humility, and to me, that got to me.
It wasn't because you were the only one who stepped down for the current vice president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo.
That's what I thought at first. And I was kind of shocked to hear that a seasoned politician would act that way, but he did confirm that no, that's not the reason. It was just an oversight, and we had to let her go and move on.
Okay, now you must be privy to some of the controversies that have now emerged with the release of the party's presidential campaign council.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of disquiet over that. We understand that a letter was written. That letter has since been denied. But the furore, you know, the aftermath of the release of the Presidential Campaign Council list is still generating controversy. So a lot of people would say that there is some truth to that letter which was purportedly written, because there is now talk of the supremacy of the party over any presidential campaign council. You are a member of that presidential campaign council, and I imagine that you're raring to go, as maybe members of the other members are. But how exactly are you people handling this? Because some people will say this spells great danger. If there is infighting between the leadership of the party and those who are supposed to be members of the Presidential Campaign Council.
I really don't see this as an issue. I was at the party office yesterday for over 5 hours. There's nothing to worry about. I think what is going on, the party want to have a say. They needed some more input. And the fact that the flag bearer is listening, to me, I think that's something good. And there's no issue. There's just some little adjustment here and there. And in no distant time, the complete list will be out. So it's really not an issue.
There's no issue.
There's no issue.
Yet,
it's just some
the
adjustment.
inauguration date has been shifted quite a bit. It's even uncertain as to when this inauguration is going to happen.
It's going to happen soon. And, you know, we have over 4 months. This is the first time we're having this kind of, this amount of time. So we're taking our time. But trust me, when we hit the floor rolling, you will understand what is coming. So it's totally different from what you have seen before. There is absolutely no issue. Some people want to have a say in it. And the father is listening. I would have been glad if I wanted a say, if I was not in that list and I come in and I want to be in the list and they're listening to me. Don't you think that's something I would like? So they're listening to people. That's something good.
I find it a little curious, though. Did you want to be on the Presidential Campaign Council?
Okay, in the first place, the reason I purchased the form, even while it was so high, was because I needed a youth representation. When I looked at 2019, we were about 73 candidates. Over 40 of us were youth. And in 2023, I discovered many of us went out. I've called some of them. I'm even going to have a meeting with them. I was thinking that youth momentum will continue. So coming to 2023, at the last minute, I wanted to pull out. But I said, if I pull out, where is the youth now in this game? So not having a youth in the Presidential Council would have been very worrisome.
You're not the only youth.
Yeah, there are youths there, but we're coming from the outside. It's totally different. We're bringing something new on board. So if we were not involved, I'm sure we would have spoken up and raised an alarm that we need more youth. I'm still not even satisfied. We need more people there. We need more youth there. You know, we have to prepare for the next election. That's what I'm looking beyond 2023. So we need more youth to come in. I just called a meeting of all former young presidential aspirants. I spoke with some of them. I said, we need to get on board. You guys are silent. We cannot be silent.
It doesn't matter which political party?
It doesn't matter. I spoke with Kingsley Moghalu. I spoke with several of them. I told them we need to sit down and meet. You guys have gone into hiding and nobody wants to speak up. Nobody wants to come on board. We cannot, what we started in 2019 cannot just stop now. We need to get on board. And it's my desire to put them on board. I don't care what party you belong to. You must come. We must speak up.
How are they responding?
They're responding very well. We must speak up. You see, when you watch a relay, you know, and they're handing over the baton, they don't hand over the baton to the guys on the stage sharing off. They hand over the baton to the guy who is also running. So that's what we must do as youth. Stay in the game, keep pushing at every level.
Speaking about youths,
yes.
What do you think about those youths, young people who feel, you know, they've had up to here, and then they've come out to the street saying, look, we don't care about the APC, we don't care about the PDP, we need to try something new. And then they're sticking their necks somewhere else, with the Labour Party, for instance, and several other parties. What do you think about that?
I must tell you, I commend every youth out there who is marching. I don't care what political party you belong to, whether you are Labour, APC, and PDP. I encourage them to keep doing what they're doing. What I'm looking forward to, that the next election, we will not just march. We will become the one to be voted for. It's starting very good. So I commend every youth out there. The only thing I don't want to see this keep going back like what happened in 2019. I was really hoping that there would be many presidential candidates who are youth, but we were very few. I'm sure because of the small, a lot of the parties were deregistered. So every youth out there who is marching, doesn't matter what party you belong to, keep doing it.
You will not be youths forever. I mean, the next 4 years, you would have added 4 years to your age, and maybe you'll be out of the youth bracket.
Maybe a political youth.
Which means we are starting very late.
Maybe.
We should have started in our 20s.
Perhaps.
So going back now, we cannot relate.
The point is this. I think what I'm trying to say is this, that, you know, the issues go beyond just young people. Yes, it is good that young people are interested in the political process, but the issues are a little more complex than just saying, you know, we just want youth to be involved. It doesn't matter what party platform, etc. You know, what exactly are young people bringing on board? That's the issue. What exactly would you say are important to young people? You are now a partisan member. You're supporting your party. What exactly do you think? I mean, what have you heard young people talking about that you think your party can address? Because part of the growls which young people have is they think that, you know, the old political class are so out of touch with what it is that they need right now in their own generation.
That's because as youth, we have always stayed on social media. That's why I left my comfort zone in the first place. I don't have to be here. I'm doing very well where I am, but it has always been on social media. We're complaining. For example, joining the APC, some of the things I've seen now, I don't think some people who have been in politics for a long time have seen it. Dealing with these guys, talking with them, having a meeting with them, in a million years, I could not have imagined some of the things going on. So if you are not there, you can have a say. When I met with our flag bearer, there were some suggestions I brought. And immediately, he brought them into action. It's okay, let's get this done, let's get this done. And soon, you'll be hearing some of the things. And there were suggestions that were brought. And I said to myself, if we are not on the table, if we don't come to these guys and, you know, and interact, our voice will not be heard. We'll keep complaining on social media, and they will never take us serious. That's why we must stay there. It's not time to run away.
Majority of the people who stepped down that night, the convention night, stepped down for the current flag bearer. You stepped down for Vice President Yemi Osinbajo.
Yes.
How is that being received, one, within the party? And are you a little concerned that he's not a part of the Presidential Campaign Council?
I mean, when the list came out, a spokesperson came and explained why his name was not there. So I'm not going too much into detail. I mean, I want to believe if the president asks that he runs the country and he should not be part of the campaign, I don't think that's what he said. I want to believe that's right. So among the campaign council, it's quite different, compared to what I thought. I thought the hesitation was because of that, but I haven't received any. I mean, I've been received, with great welcome, open hands. I go to the party office, the ovation. I mean, it's been very interesting what is going on, and that's what's pulling us in. We're not coming because we're desperate, we're looking for something. No. The reception has been quite overwhelming, and all the times I met with our flag bearer, the reception has been. We had personal meetings, quite private discussion. It's been very interesting.
Would you say the same for the vice president whom you stepped down for?
Oh, yeah. You see, there was so much. When I speak with these guys, there are things I look for. I examine them. I read their body language. I ask questions deliberately. For the vice president, I saw the same. He was very open, very humble. And one of the things that got my attention, that made me wait all the way for him, we sat down, it was about 3 of us discussing the first day. And I was asking some questions. I'm big on security. I want to know how we're going to be safe. My wife don't want to come to Nigeria because of security. Nothing else is driving her here. So when it comes to security, I'm big on that. And while we were discussing, somebody brought an issue to the vice president. And right there, he asked me, what do you think? I gave my suggestion, and he took it. And I said to myself, wow, he's the vice president. I'm meeting him for the first time. He asked me, he saw that the idea I brought was great, and he took it. That means this guy will listen. That means this is somebody we can approach. That was it for me. I didn't care what else, anybody has to say or what was going on. As far as that took place, I was ready to go all the way in for him.
But if I could just, when you said your wife doesn't want to come to Nigeria because of security or insecurity, isn't that a direct feedback on how the APC has performed in that area?
Yeah, I mean, while we were planning our wedding in 2019, she was almost killed. She was robbed with a gun on her head.
Oh, dear.
And while he looked up to look at the man, the guy said, "You're looking at me," and I cracked the gun. I almost wanted to blow her head off. It It was somebody that screamed, "Stop, don't do it." The trauma is still there for her. So and when it comes to security, I own a security firm in America. It's a lot of employees. I own one here too in Nigeria. So I'm big on security. I don't care how much. I always tell people I would rather live in a subway in a country that is safe than in a mansion with police, with guns all over the place. We're not in war front. So when it comes to security, that's my #1 agenda, and that's the input I want to believe I will bring to the ideas that we have to make sure our country gets back. In those days, we used to work 2 a.m. We used to sleep outside because of the heat. And once it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., our parents will wake us up to go in. But now you can't try that. 9 p.m., everybody is in. So we must stay on board so that we can give our input. They're not going to listen to us on social media.
We pray she gets over the trauma. But when you say that you just want young people to come out, just get there, be on the ballot, presidential candidates, is there a strategy? Because you can't just be all over the place and then ensure you have that critical decision to make wherein you pull all that support and resources to one person. That way, wouldn't you make more impact as opposed to having several other people on different ballots?
You're right. There's no strategy. If you look at the NSAS protests, at the end of the day, we ask ourselves, what was the outcome of it? The youth came out in large numbers. At the end of the day, we protested, NSAS. And now I don't think there's anything we can hold from that rally. It has always been us all over the place. Like after 2019, nobody is coordinating anything. I think that's where some of us want to come on board. Like the meeting I'm calling of all other aspirants to come. Let's sit down. How do we... A lot of us spent hard-earned personal money for this. And we sacrificed. I have young kids. Every day I'm feeling their impact. I wanted to abort this mission. I'm like, I got to be in my kids' life. I called my leaders. It's a lot of sacrifice we're putting. We don't want this to just go in vain. But there's no direction now, but somebody has to take the lead and bring the youth together. I'm looking beyond 2023. After 2023 election, a lot of I want to respectfully call them our fathers. They have no choice than to be handing over the baton to us. But if we are not prepared, we can't take over and do the needful.
But they've always said that, look, we fought for this during our own time, but young people think that it can drop on their laps.
Exactly.
That won't happen.
No, it's not going to happen. I keep saying it, especially sometimes when I hear our Eastern brothers, family members, the Igbo say, it's time for us. I keep telling them, nobody's going to hand over power to you. Not in Nigeria, not in Europe, not anywhere. Power is fought for. You have to fight for it. You have to do everything to grab it. And to the youth out there, they are watching me. If you think these guys will just call us from the stage, and say, come, we're about to hand over to you, it's not going to happen. We have to be in their midst, be in their meeting. While they are discussing, we respectfully interrupt. That's what I plan to do. While they are saying things, we'll go there and speak up. We have to, invade their privacy and do the needful.
Well, right now,
staying on social media and just insulting people, oh, you're a member of the APC, we insult, it's not going to work. We're not going to get it done like that.
Well, I'm sure that, even from social media, or on social media, you have seen what is happening. A number of young people are, rooting now for the candidate of the Labour Party. Yes, there are youths in every organization.
Of course.
But you are seeing that there is a morphing around one particular candidate, at least the youth whom we see. A number of youth whom we see on social media, they've been organizing rallies in different states of the country, and they're saying that, this is what they want to do. They're taking this beyond social media. First and foremost, how are you receiving that, one? And then two, right now, there is no party for youth. It's a partisan thing. You are supposed to be campaigning for your party. And part of the reason is they feel that your party hasn't done well for young people, and they think that it is time for them to, seek for somebody who can do better for them. How are you addressing them?
Like I said, I am excited seeing the youth coming out. APC, we have a lot of youth in APC. As we begin our rally, you begin to see what we're going to be doing. So what we see on social media really don't move us. Like I said, I'm glad seeing...
Not social media, I'm talking about on ground.
On ground,
for
yes.
instance, in Lagos, there was a Labour Party rally. It wasn't the Labour Party, it was just young people doing this for the candidate of the Labour Party. That was not social media.
Yes.
That was on the ground.
As soon as we flag off our campaign, we're going to begin. I'm the Deputy Youth Coordinator. There's so much we're going to put on board, and that is going to be settled. So we're really not moved by that. You know, we're winning this election. I'm sure you know that. APC is going to win.
I'm sorry, I do not know that. I know that the elections are yet to hold, and I know that you still have a lot of work to win the hearts and minds.
Let me address the issue of the party. You see, I see after 2019, it took a long time. I asked questions. I had several meetings. I took suggestions. I listened to people. I read comments. We put all this together. And at first, I was one of those people who think these parties are dead parties. They can't offer. I've criticized them. There's nothing I've not said about these parties. But I noticed Nigerians are not leaving these parties. We still have members in PDP and APC. They remain there. And that's why, number one, we came to join them. And number two, when we're talking about party, you must understand the president becomes the leader of the party. If I was elected as a candidate, are you telling me I would have failed? No. I have my own ideas I'm bringing on board. And that's what you saw in the Presidential Council, where the flag bearer brought, you know, his people, the PPC and the PCC. And now the party wants to have a say. I'm glad he's listening to them because we're still members of the party, carrying everybody along. So it's a good thing. But a new administration is coming in. That's very key. We're not talking about the old administration. Yes, it's the same party. Understand that the party is a platform. But a new administration is coming in. A new president is coming in. You're going to have new ministers. Everything is going to change. So we should expect change and not what has been going on. No matter how good it is, whatever it is that the APC has done, in the area they succeeded and the area they may have failed. But something new is coming in, and that's what we should be expecting. Not just party-wise. Look at the candidates. Look at the cabinet.
They are looking at the candidates. They want a candidate that is young.
Yes, but as youth, you understand, we are still trying to get there. It takes a lot to run an election. It takes lots and lots, and I know the millions that we were pumping out just for the little we did. We couldn't even do much. And that was why we decided to even step back. I know the hundreds of millions. How many youth have that to we weren't getting any support. People weren't giving us money. We had to be coughing out our money. We were pulling in the thousands of dollars running the election. And we couldn't even scratch the surface. So for us as youth, we need to be able to get there where we'll get a lot of support. We haven't gotten there. And staying at home and not joining these bigger parties is not the best way. I have a friend in PDP. And we spoke. I told him, stay there. I didn't tell him to come and join me. I said, the only thing I want you to do while you are there, you cannot be quiet. You cannot compromise. Speak up, stay there, and do the right thing while you are there.
Sometimes, I mean, I hear people say that they have lofty ideas, very, very good ones, and then when they get into political parties and they see the reality on ground, the ideas, no matter how lofty they are, they get dwarfed by the reality in those parties. Now, given what's playing out, I mean, I don't know if your party or even the PDP or other parties are aware of this, wherein lots of young professionals are leaving the country in droves. Different sectors, excuse me, they're all feeling the pinch. And many more think that after the elections, these general elections, if things don't go the way they think it will, you'll have a lot more people leave the country.
Yeah.
So, is your party, for instance, do you get that filler? Are they doing anything to ensure that doesn't happen?
Understand that the Presidential Council we have and our flag bearer, yes, is a member of the party, but I have no say in the administration, in policy. It's not a senator, it's not a House of Rep member. It can only give suggestions. It can only give advice. But a new administration is coming in. With the person I know him to be,
we don't know which administration will come, by the way.
I'm speaking of my party. I know Asiwaju is going to win the election. So that's why I'm speaking from that perspective. He's coming in. It's a very bold man.
Is this by faith? Are you speaking by faith now?
By the reality of ground, he's going to win the election. I mean, the handwriting is clear on the wall that he's going to win the election. Who are you comparing? Is it PDP or who? No, we are winning the election. So I'm not speaking by faith. For me to be talking this way, I have asked questions. I have looked at calculations. So I know we are winning the election.
Okay, well, several other people, PDP will tell you, of course we will win. And Labour Party and young people will say, forget it, APC and PDP. LMPP and YPP, ADC, all of them will tell you, we are going on. SDP told us the other day, we are winning this. So we're used to that with politicians.
I don't lie to myself. I don't come out here and lie to myself. We may come out and speak But I have God has blessed me with a very wonderful team. I'm talking about men and women with brains. So
well, we kind of wish you all the best. We have to wish you all the best, as it turns out. So thank you very much indeed for coming on, Dr. Nicholas Felix, former presidential candidate of the APC. And now you're in the Presidential Campaign Council, right?
Yes.
All right, so there you go. We're back in a moment. Join us again. All right, so we actually have to end the program at this point in time. So
we have a few mails, and we can see this one from Chuka Gerald. He says, the retired general made mention that the basic issues of insecurity are generated in the local communities and allowed to escalate to the state and national levels. Before the state governors ask for state police, the local government system must be liberated. No local government in Nigeria submits annual budgets. No office for councillors. How can Nigeria grow without the local government system? That's from Chuka Gerald.
And then this one from Kenneth says the satellites that Nigeria launched, which, what is it being used for in this computer age? Everything is computerized. Let the federal government install powerful cameras that can pick up whoever is hiding in the forest. So he goes on and on. Well, Kenan, thank you very much indeed for your comments. And thank you everybody else for sending your messages. Well, that is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maupe Ogunyusu.
Well, it's been a fabulous time with you this morning. Look forward to doing it tomorrow. I'm Kayode Okikele.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for watching from Lagos. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.